Hey guys, so today is going to be my first video ever on my meal prep. Now obviously, excuse this little overcut, it is going to be all showing you in the kitchen of how I'm making things, what I take to work, how many things I prepare in advance. You guys have been very curious since my weight loss video of what sort of foods I make and how I make them and what I choose to season with, how I calorie control and how I am sort of carb conscious. So I'm going to show you a week's food that I'm making. At the moment I'm being a bit more strict on myself. This is what I've been having for lunches before, but now coming up to my birthday, it's 14 days away, and I need to I want to look really good in a nice dress for my birthday, so I'm doing a full-on slim down. The one thing that I like to make sure that I'm conscious of mainly is calories, carbs and salts. So unfortunately I can't add any more extra salts to my meals, which is a big disappointment because I love that. I love salt so much. And then obviously carb, I'm knocking the carbs out almost totally. We have carbs in absolutely everything we eat anyway, usually, so you know, there's minimal carbs here and there, but I'm full on like lowering the carbs to absolute all-time low. And then finally obviously calories, so none of this stuff is going to be cooked in full fat oils. It's all different alternative lights and no heavy seasonings with lots of sugar, etc. So I will explain more obviously while we're looking at what I'm cooking in the video. I'll do voiceovers and I hope you guys enjoy. Please bear with me, this is my first one. Here we go. Okay, starting with my protein. So I choose salmon as my option. I love fish. This is a whole half side of salmon. I find it better value for money. And then I've got some cocktail prawns because fish can be very expensive, but yeah, it's so good for you, so I like to use it. It's all very high in omega-3s, so always great stuff to have. I'm also a huge fan of cocktail prawns, so I had to get them. These are just a little overview of the vegetables that I decided to go with. As you can see, very dark green vegetables. I didn't end up using this pak choy, not because it looks bad, it just came out of the freezer, but just because I didn't fancy it, so ignore that for a minute. So first thing we're going to do is preheat the oven to gas mark 6-7 for our salmon, so make sure it is fully heated. And now we're going to prepare the salmon. So I'm very basic. I like it obviously to be as clean as possible, and the most healthiest way to cook it I found is either to steam it or to put it in the oven pretty much in a steaming way. So I'm taking the kitchen foil, and you've got to take a nice bit that's obviously going to cover the whole salmon. This ended up being a huge piece, but you do find that fish and meat actually shrink when they cook. But this was a humongous piece anyway. So all I'm going to do is basically just put it in the center of this foil. As you can see, it's huge, but it worked out great because I'm obviously meal planning for 4 days, and this was only about just under 4 pounds for this piece, whereas usually a normal piece would be no, sorry, this was like 7 pounds I think for this, but a normal piece of salmon, smaller, would be about 4 or 5 pounds a piece. So it's definitely better to go bigger and just cut it up. So I'm just loosely folding it up in the foil, creating almost a steaming sort of effect, so when it cooks all the heat obviously gets trapped in the foil and it sort of cooks that way. So I want to just put it straight into the oven, and we're gonna let this cook for about 35 to 40 minutes. So by the time that this is cooking, we can go ahead and make some of our vegetables. Alright, and then this is what I use to cook my vegetables. It's just a basic steamer. We've had it forever, but all you do is you just put a little bit of water in the bottom of the tray, and then you go ahead and put the little thing back on top, and then you can go ahead and put your vegetables in. So it is small, so I did have to do my vegetables all slowly, but obviously depending on which one you have, you might be able to cook them all together, etc. So it's dead simple. You just chuck your vegetables on, chuck it in the microwave, and jobs are good 'un. So make sure your micro power is on the highest, and we're going to put these in for about 6 minutes. And voila, this is what it looks like when it comes out. It's steaming hot, looking lovely. So broccoli is one of my favorite ingredients to put in these meals because it's a really good source of dietary fiber. It has vitamin B6, vitamin E, magnesium, all sorts of different vitamins. So now the broccoli's done, obviously I took it off. We're going to go in and go with the asparagus. Asparagus is also one of my favourite vegetables, but unfortunately I picked up this packet, which is like the normal asparagus. I usually get asparagus tips, and I really wouldn't recommend normal asparagus. It's far too thick and big, and it just doesn't taste the same. It's not very flavoursome at all. I didn't really enjoy this, and it also takes a lot more cooking. Like, I cooked this for ages and it still was hard. And then I just decided to go with some baby corn. I've never done this before, but I do really like baby corn, and obviously the one thing I've learned with meal preps and meal planning and just general healthy meals is that you should have a lot of colour on your plate. So I wanted to go with the corn, along with all my other dark green vegetables. So that just goes back in the microwave, comes back out. I did that for about 4 minutes. It didn't turn out to be enough, so I ended up putting it back in again, so it comes out for about 6 or 7 minutes, I think, in total. But yeah, I also ended up cutting these asparagus in half because they were just far too thick and didn't want to cook. Then on to the spring greens. So these didn't end up being very nice either, unfortunately, but you can get these a pack from Asda. This is a different type, but you can get a pack from Asda that's bigger than this. You just literally pierce the bag, chuck it in the microwave for about 2 or 3 minutes, I think, and that's it. It's absolutely amazing. I always go ahead and refry them afterwards, but just to cook them and get them steamed, it's really nice and just simple and easy. So what I'm doing now is I'm just preheating the pan, and I use this calorie spray Fry Light, and it's infused with garlic, which is why I really like it, and it's a calorie spray, so you can go to town with it. Oh, I love this little overlay where you can see it sort of dissolving. But the reason I do this is because I like to add a bit more flavour. All these vegetables are great steamed, but they can be a little bit boring. So obviously I have the garlic Fry Light, and I'm just putting a little bit of 1 clove of garlic in there just to add even more of a garlic flavour. And all you're going to do is just cook this up for a bit. Obviously they're already cooked, but you just want them to get softer and just infuse the flavour. So all I do is I chuck on the lid and let it sort of steam for a bit, turn down the heat. Oh, and our spring greens are done. So we just take that out of the microwave, and then once this is done infusing, we can just take that off and put it aside on a plate. And I'm going to basically go in and do the same thing again, but this is just the normal Fry Light spray. It hasn't got any flavour because obviously we already got the garlic left in the pan. I wasn't too keen on having everything garlic, so normal calorie spray, olive oil is fine. And I'm just going to chuck in my broccoli this time. So to change up the flavour, I'm going to be adding this pork seasoning, sage and onion Schwartz seasoning. These are absolutely fine. Obviously you don't go overboard, but for the amount of broccoli I cooked, that was, you know, a very small amount. It just adds that little bit of flavour. In America, I know they do a whole better version of these, like the Mrs. Dash seasonings and stuff, so I tried to find the English alternative. It wasn't amazing, but it definitely did add that little bit of extra flavour, and obviously they are no calories at all because they're just dry herbs. So I'm doing the same there, turning the heat down and letting it steam. And finally, the spring greens, we're just going to also refry those again. No need to show you, because obviously you know the drill by now. Alright, and while we were busy doing all of that, our salmon is now ready to come out of the oven, one of my favourite bits. I just love salmon, and as you've seen, I didn't put any additional salt or any sort of pepper on it, just because I didn't want to, I did want the salt, but you know, it retains water and it's not great. But look how amazing that looks. It has shrunk in size, but it was still enough for 4 days. You know, it's just a little bit on the side, just your source of protein mainly. So I just cut this up into 4 sections, trying to make it as even as possible. And then these are my meal prep containers. So I got these off of eBay. You can get them from Amazon. They're just a generic brand that you can buy. They're fabulous because you can wash and reuse them, and you can put them in the microwave. And I love that they had the 3 sections. So one section I keep for my meat, and one's for my sort of carbs, and one's for the vegetables. So I just try to divide this as evenly as possible and do the same basically with all of the other ingredients. And I had this little bit of pesto pasta salad left over, and I thought, you know what, I actually haven't got any carb in there at all, so there's literally a spoonful of this in each container, just for a little bit of carb. Like I told you guys, I was pretty much really lowering, almost cutting out the carbs for my lunch, but I was having them for dinner, so don't think I was like cutting them out altogether. But it turned out being really nice. And then I'm just popping some of these prawns in. I almost didn't use them, but I just love prawns, and it is a weird combination to some people. I've been having these in work and people have been like, that's a bit strange, but it actually works. I actually quite like it. I always have the weirdest combinations, but they just work. It's a means to the ends. I just want this, basically the nutrition in my body. Okay, then this is the naughty bit of the meal. I just got this little bit of Blue Dragon sweet sauce, sort of sweet chili sauce seasoning sauce. What? And I just put a little bit of this on the salmon, just to add a bit of flavour. Like, it's no calories there. Well, there is some, but obviously very minimal, but it just adds that nice little bit of a sort of treat with the salmon. And then you're done. So obviously you just pop the lids on. I just store these in the fridge. I wouldn't probably say don't do any more than sort of 4 days worth if you're using fresh meat. If it's all vegetable, then that should be a little bit fine. It should keep for longer, but obviously it does get a little bit drier as you go along. But these meal boxes have been amazing so far. They are really big. I didn't expect them to come as big as they were, but it just worked out so well, and I really enjoyed bringing these in, and sort of it made me feel a lot more motivated. So don't judge the fridge with all of the alcohol. We are an alcoholic family. So keep those in there, and that is it for my meal prep video. There's Milo. Just wanted to say goodbye, and thank you guys for watching. I hope this has been what you were expecting. Do bear with me because I'm very new to this, but I hope you guys all have a great day, and I'll talk to you really soon. Stay beautiful. Ciao.